Today on the Ferguson Home, we're talking about the issue of the sexless marriage.
So if you're listening and you're thinking, help me, I'm in a sexless marriage, this one's for you.
Well, welcome back to the Ferguson Home. We're excited to be with you today and to talk about this important topic of how do I grow in sexual intimacy in my marriage when I don't have any desire for sex, and maybe you're in a marriage where sex has just completely stopped. And this is an important issue to Barry and I because we talk to so many couples in our marriage ministry and our counseling who have find themselves trapped in a marriage where sex is not a part of it anymore. Maybe it was at one point, but they've gotten to the place where they would say they're in a sexless marriage. And why is that a concern for us?
It's a concern because sex is a good gift that is given to us by God to enjoy. And I think in the culture that we live in, our world has perverted sex. And so especially for us as ladies, we can see it as something bad, and we can push our husbands away when they want it and think, oh, they're just perverts, or it's all they want is sex. And we can say those things in our thoughts. We can say them out loud to hurt our spouse and forget in all of that the real truth is that sex is a gift for both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think what we want to share today are some root causes and help you to really take some time to analyze if you find yourself in a situation where sexual intimacy has died in your marriage, or maybe it's just become so infrequent that it's not a part of your relationship anymore. How do you assess the situation and figure out what's really causing that? And so today on the Ferguson Home, we want to give you 5 possible reasons that you may be in that situation in your marriage, and hopefully just kind of spur some conversation between you and your spouse to figure out what's the real issue going on.
And maybe if we go through these 5 and you assess and think those don't apply to us, but there's something else, then comment and let us know, because we're always growing, and there's lots of reasons why you can find yourself in a sexless marriage, but we want to start the conversation, help you start the conversation to figure out the root. So let's go.
So the first one that we hear often and we experience in our own life is just the pace of life. You know, couples get to the place of exhaustion where they just are going so fast, their schedule is so busy, and they're missing each other as a couple. And so even if they want to have sex, they crawl into bed at night and they're so exhausted because the day has just overwhelmed them, and parenting and jobs and hobbies and all the things that they do, and they get in bed at night, and it's like even if they want to have sex, they're already asleep, they're too tired and just exhausted.
We found ourselves in that boat. And also for your pace of life, if it includes young kids and if they're hanging on you all day, I mean, I remember that, where it's like my body was almost repelled by any more touch. By the end of the day, once we got the kids in bed and they were sleeping, it was like, oh, Lord, thank you that I just have nobody attached to me for a little bit. And so I would...
You didn't want me to touch you?
Yeah, I'd almost take that out on you.
Right.
If you even try to get close to me. I was a little jumpy probably.
So if you find yourself in that situation, I guess our recommendation is that you really talk about your schedule, you slow down, you get some rest, take a day off of work, spend some time together as a couple, get away, do something as a couple where you just are enjoying one another and slowing down your pace of life.
Yeah, the pace of life is such a big one because there's so many good things we can say yes to. And I remember when we were in our younger parenting years, and I would say yes to every play date that there was because I loved friend time and I kept my kids busy. But then by the end of the day, I would come home and I had nothing left to give Keith or our family life because I had spent all my energy on those play dates. And so there was a distinct time where I just started saying no to a lot of different activities during the day so that I could be healthier in the evenings and give my best to my family.
So the first issue could be pace of life. Need to slow down. Second issue that we hear about a lot is sexual trauma. Is somebody has been molested or raped or been through some kind of personal trauma in their life, and so they get into their marriage relationship and sex has all of this negative connotation to them because of what's happened to them in their personal experience.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even that maybe that you've been sexually molested. Sometimes it's that you grew up in a religion that taught that sex is bad, or that you just don't talk about it, and it's gross, a lot of shame. And so when you get married and all of a sudden sex is okay, you have all of that baggage that you've been taught your whole life growing up that a lot of times requires counseling to get through, because it's not true. But yet your brain's going to fight that if you've been taught it your whole growing up years.
And so obviously, like how you deal with trauma, the wounds from your past, that's a huge conversation, and it's more than we can cover in this one video. But I think what we want to say to you is, if that is your story, either because you've been abused personally, you've had some kind of terrible experience with sex, you've been hurt by sex, or because you come from a shame-based culture where sex is dirty, you do need to acknowledge that impacts your sexual intimacy in marriage, and say, you know what? I'm going to do what it takes to pursue wholeness and healing personally, and get help so that the intimacy can grow in your marriage together.
It's worth it, yeah. Yeah, the third thing that we find is your physical health plays a huge impact on your sex life. And we can testify to that. When we're working out and when we're eating healthy, we're more likely to want to get naked in the bedroom. But when I'm not working out and I'm not exercising and I'm not happy with my body, I'm much more reluctant to get naked.
Yeah, so. And not just diet and exercise, other physical health issues. Some people have pain when they have sex, and so that has obviously impacts your sexual intimacy. Some people, as they get older, maybe their sex drive starts to go away. Like, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I've had issues with my sex drive depending on what I've been eating. Yeah,
that's a good, so with the keto diet being so big right now and no carbs, everybody limiting their carbs, that's a good one to remember, because there was a time, because of his health, that the doctor recommended that you cut all carbs out. And so we didn't make the connection for a little while, but finally I was like, hey, you're not pursuing me. What is going on? Like, what happened to our sex life? And it turned out that it was because of no carbs. So we gave him carbs again, and our sex life was back in gear.
Yeah. So it could be related to that. Could be low testosterone. There's so many different issues. And so I think what Barry and I would say is, make sure to check your own physical health, that you're taking care of your body. And also, if you find yourself in a situation where sex is painful or you just have no desire, you might talk to a doctor about that. Like, don't be embarrassed to ask your doctor and say, hey, I'm experiencing this problem in my marriage, and I could use some help and figure out what's going on with my own body.
Yeah, a lot of times it's hormones, and just like if it was a physical ailment, we would go to the doctor and we would get help and take medicine. Oftentimes we miss that when it's related to our hormones, our mental health, and we somehow think we're supposed to have it all together, that that's all supposed to be functioning properly, and sometimes we just need the extra help. And so go to somebody who is wiser, who has the information and knowledge, and get the help that you need.
It's really helpful. Yeah. So it could be pace of life, could be past sexual trauma, could be a problem with your physical health. The fourth root issue that we often see and even experience in our own relationship is emotional disconnect. And that is that sometimes we forget that physical intimacy is the fruit of relational connection. And so when, as a couple starts to pull apart from each other, they're not dating, they're not laughing, they're not talking anymore, then all of a sudden sex just becomes so much more difficult and complicated.
Yeah, they've just become business partners that are dealing in transactions. And I mean, hopefully business partners aren't having sex. That's for the marriage.
That's a different video.
Yeah, that's a different video. So yeah, you just need to remember, you're not business partners, you're not roommates, you are a married couple. And that, like, your best friend should be your spouse. And if that's not true, then work at that, fight for it, put time in your schedule to go on dates and to have fun together and laugh together a lot. And that right there can spark a healthy sex life.
Yeah. And the last one we want to talk about in this video, and I think we'll come back and do a whole separate talk on this,
multiple talks,
is the issue of pornography. And it's just everywhere in our culture today. It's in front of us all the time. It's available everywhere. And we talk to a lot of married couples who think that bringing pornography into their bedroom and into their marriage relationship is going to increase their sex life. Yeah, and actually it has the opposite effect. Yeah. It increases jealousy, it increases lust and impurity and temptation, insecurity.
Because you're not going to have a makeup artist in your bedroom covering all your imperfections and getting you ready for the camera when it's just you and your spouse. And so the insecurities just rise up like crazy in that environment.
And so I think what we want to say to you is, like, if you have fallen into that trap, either personally, like you're looking at pornography, that can definitely impact your sexual intimacy with your spouse negatively. Or if you've brought pornography into your bedroom as a couple, you need to stop that. Like, you need to take responsibility for pursuing purity in your personal life. And as Christians, the word that we want to use there is repentance. Like, it's a responsibility to turn from that. And we're not beating you up for it. We know that it's common. We know that everybody struggles with it. But we're just saying, like, if you really want to have good intimacy in your marriage, you've got to get pornography out of the picture.
Yeah. If you're ready to fight for a healthy marriage and a healthy sex life, this is the first part of the fight.
Yeah.
Like, be all in. Game on. Like, don't say, oh, we'll try the other stuff and look at our diet and exercise and pace of life, but we're going to keep this part because it is so detrimental to your marriage.
That's right. That's right. So just to review, here's the 5 things we think could be a root cause of why you find yourself in a sexless marriage. 1, the pace of life, that you're exhausted and need to slow down. 2, that you've experienced some kind of trauma with sex in your past and need to find healing and wholeness.
3, your physical health. Maybe you just need to adjust your diet and exercise and spend a little bit more time focused on your physical health and getting healthy. 4 is you're just emotionally, relationally disconnected. You need to go have a date and have fun together and tell your kids to stay at home. They're going to be fine. Get a babysitter and just enjoy each other.
And 5th is that you've kind of come to peace with pornography in your marriage and you need to get pornography out of your marriage and out of your personal life. So think through those 5 possible root causes, and as Barry said, there could be another, but here's the question we want to encourage you as a couple to discuss. When you are not having sex as a couple, why are you not having sex? And so just sit down together and say it's been a long time, or you've gone through seasons where you haven't been sexually active as a married couple. Talk to each other about why and see if it's one of the reasons we've brought up or something different.
And I want to add one more question that's important. For you as a couple, what does a healthy sex life look like? And talk about it so that your expectations or that you're on the same page. Is it 2 times a week? Is it 3 times a week? I remember at the beginning of our marriage, we would joke and say, if we go longer than 48 hours, then something's wrong. Then we had kids and a lot more responsibilities. And so that's not always possible now. But we still know what is considered healthy for us. And if we vary from that, then we stop and come together and like, okay, what's going on? I miss you. Something's got to change. And so for you in your marriage, what does that look like to be healthy in this area?